Good morning, welcome to the Esoteric Symbols Tour. I'm Dr. Paul Karitzis, and today's lesson will be on the formative force, or the Martian formative force, actively expressed in the planet Mars and passively in the middle iron. And before we get started, I'll show you a sample of iron. This is what iron looks like. On the periodic table of elements, of course, it's symbolized by the letters Fe, which is its Latin name for ferrum. Comprised of active planetary and passive metallic energies, the Martian formative force stands near the center of a cosmological schema in which the masculine aesthetic, symbolized by the sun or gold, and the feminine aesthetic, symbolized by the moon or silver, inhabit each end as polar opposites. Quite like Venus or copper, Mars or iron is a blunted expression, an impure reflection of the supernal incarnated light that suffuses the active pole. In the Venusian force, we discern that the spirit or embodiment of life force crystallized the elements under the aegis of the solar power. Furthermore, the cosmic condition was personified by the configuration of the symbol itself. In the case of the Martian force, the opposite certainly holds true. Governing this cosmological condition is the resubmergence or entombment of spirit in the obscurity of a fourfold elemental differentiation of fire, air, water, and earth. Over here. Mars's traditional symbol, which is the circle surmounted by the cross. So the symbols which are used by astrology and even alchemy today is this one, the one that looks like that. But one of its traditional symbols was the circle and the cross on top, which is the opposite of the copper symbol. So that symbol exoterically expresses the chaotic position. In the alchemical opus, the Martian formative force is ascribed rulership over the stage known as Cauda Pavonis, or peacock's tail. So the stage in which putrefied matter in the alembic of the alchemist miraculously generates iridescent blues and greens, a reinvigoration of matter which immediately precedes the coagulation of a new form that unravels under leucosis or albedo, the whitening phase. And there's a very beautiful depiction of the stage known as Cauda Pavonis over here in the Splendor Solar series. This is from plate 11.5, and that's Cauda Pavonis over there. It's a very beautiful plate. The metal of iron came to prominence during the Iron Age when it was used together with steel to inveigle, exploit and destroy nature. But unanimous opinion in scholarly circles has it that its properties and usage have been known to human beings since at least the mid-2nd millennium BCE. This is vindicated by ancient Egyptian bas-reliefs portraying the metallurgical procedure of iron's melting, which dates to approximately 1500 BCE. In African countries like Egypt, along with the Middle East, iron was looked upon with immense awe and reverence and held a much grander and dignified position in metallic hierarchy than gold, because the first samples identified were meteoritic or celestial in origin. Iron was divine in origin, the metal of the gods, so to speak. Hence, to pamper the ego and pacify any budding unrest, what greater and more noble gift could the war-loving Hittites have sent King Ramses the Great than an iron sword and a lump of meteoric iron? These profound sentiments extended into classical Hellenistic consciousness, for Homer reveals that the meteoritic iron, which was bequeathed to competitors who won certain events at the Olympic Games, During the classical period of Greece proper, use of the sky metal extended to therapeutic medicine. In the Iliad, for instance, we have an instance of the rust of iron obtained from a spear that injured Telephus being applied to his wound to facilitate the healing process. In another classical myth, the legendary seer and physician Melampus cured Iphiclus, the king of Phylacia, of extreme bodily weakness or anemia by encouraging the daily ingestion of a tincture combining wine with the rust of iron. This therapeutic value attributed to the metal by the ancients influenced its practical use during the Middle Ages and the early modern period. Deeply impressed by the deep-rooted qualitative and emotional connection between the sky metal and the astringent, restless nature of blood and war, 16th and 17th century physicians prepared tinctures of iron and remedial therapies for debilitating illnesses and conditions. 3 of these gained widespread exposure: a black oxide known as Aethiops martial, a sesquioxide of iron called Crocus martis, and an ammoniated chloride named Flores martius. All 3 are united by the epithet of Mars, so all the Hellenistic areas if you want, betraying their primordial connection with the Greco-Roman god of war and the fiery qualities of strength, urgency, and activity. In retrospect, one should never forget that the endeavour of war is underpropped by iron, a metal that has always served as the base material from which all cutting-edge weaponry or instruments of war are fashioned. Hence the god Mars or Ares, the metal iron, the act of war, and the primary qualities associated with all 3 quintessentially express the same formative force at work in the cosmos. And over here we can see, I'll actually show you, we can see the formative force of Mars actively expressed in the planet Mars, which is up here, the red, there it is. And I believe by the metal iron down here, although I believe it is not visible. Maybe it's that one. Yeah, it is. There it is. So we found it eventually. A bit hidden by those lines. And that concludes today's lesson on the Martian formative force. I'll see you next time for a really cool exposition on the formative force of Jove, Jupiter or Tin. See you then.